Listening to The Leading Edge with Mindy Audlin and Stacey Collins.
Welcome back to The Leading Edge. We're kind of pulling everything together. We're almost to the end of this series. We have a couple more episodes to go to share with you. We're really today pulling together a summary of where we've been so that you can look at, how do I plan for this? How do I look at it holistically? How do I grow it? How do I make it scalable? And how do I make it sustainable? So we've been talking about this engagement model of reaching out to your explorers and then engaging them so that you can connect with them and invite them to come back. And as they come back, how do you expand their understanding of the teachings so that you can then help them express those teachings? And as we were on break, Stacey shared with me this great story about really helping people expand their understanding of the teachings through small groups. So Stacey, are you open to sharing that?
Yeah, sure. And one of the things I'll say I love about small groups is it helps people get from that explorer phase to engaging and expanding. We kind of put them on a fast track to that because a small group is a safe place for those explorers to kind of start testing out some ideas and sharing with people in a safe space. And so I had a small group last week with the majority. We have one male participant and the rest of us, and he's a bit younger. And then we have a lot of seasoned women in the group. And I was kind of keeping an eye on him, like, how's he hanging in here? Is he feeling connected? And we got to the end of the session. He's like, I just have to say, you guys have really made me think today. Like, I have to go home and think about this stuff. And like, he was surprised. He wasn't expected that he was going to be challenged. And that's the great thing I think about small groups, is that connection is a lot of the primary reason when you hear people, why did you sign up for a group? I want to get connected. I want to get connected. And once they feel connected and feel safe, which doesn't take very long, then they are able to start being vulnerable in their sharing. And that's where really transformation happens. So.
That is, and isn't that the mission? So that's, I mean, that's really the process, is get the explorers in, and get their contact information. Obviously, you want to invite them to a group where they can expand in their understanding. Then they go home and they have to think about it. That's part of the spiritual journey, is take an idea. I need to take this home. You've given me something to think about. And then to come back in the next week and to be with that same supportive, loving group of people and be able to say, well, here's, when I went home and thought about it, here are my insights and here's what I'm doing differently. And that is the express piece. The express piece is really, how is your mission being expressed? That is the point of having that mission. Is your mission getting expressed? Is that young man's life transformed through the course of your engagement together? And that's the goal, of course, is, to create these transformational experiences to help people come from wherever they are, whatever they're going through, and have an experience that is transformational, or whatever your mission statement may be. It may be an awakening experience or an empowerment experience. So what is it that is your mission, and is that happening? And do you know? And small groups I love because it makes it so much easier to know that, yes, this is having an impact in someone's life. So, and then the final piece of that is, once you have those, like, hey, I went home, I chewed on it, and now I'm living it. And then you do that for a while so that it's not like pouncing on people for volunteers. We talked about that in another episode.
Right.
Not pouncing on new leaders just because, oh, you're a young person, we would love young people in leadership. So it's not about that. It's about, you're a person who has taken these teachings and put them into action in your life. And we have seen that. And because of what we have seen in you, we want to invite you to step into greater leadership in bringing our mission to the world. And that's what we talked about in the last episode, is encouraging those new leaders. So anything you want to share about the process of that whole process together of going from new person into leadership?
Yeah, it's so interesting. This is, I know we talk about small groups a lot, but I feel that that's really a place not only for, you're not trying to always get people just to host more small groups. That's not the point. It's for people to get in and to get to do that expanding and engaging. And then once they get to know, they have their little tribe of people that know their gifts and can kind of say, have you ever thought about this? And so that's that personal invitation again. And they feel engaged enough in the community to share their gifts with the broader community, not just in their group. And it's just a beautiful beautiful, effortless, I would say. You're not haranguing anybody, please volunteer. It comes from within because they have felt served within their group.
Yeah, I love that. And that's where it begins to spiral up and spiral up and spiral out and spiral out. And, I think that word effortless is such a great word because the effort that you put into training the leaders is what's, it's like people are putting themselves into it. So there is an intentionality about it, but it doesn't have to feel so hard because it's not just you anymore. And when it's not just one person, but when it's every group leader that you have, and you've built a pretty big team of group leaders now. So when you have this pool of people who have been through the process and experienced the process, and now this is the sweet stuff. This is the magic. Now you have people, once you've gone through it, those leaders, those participants now can become leaders. And that aha experience of, wow, this gave me something to think about. Wow, this gave me something that I could put into my life that made a difference. Wow, I feel changed. I now want to help other people have that experience, which is natural for us to, when we experience change, when we experience something good, it is natural for us to want to bring it to people we care about. So it then becomes natural. It may not be completely effortless, but it's not all on one person. It's all of us together rowing together, which feels so much, there's so much more ease, there's so much more flow. So that's what we're really doing, is as you get people that have gone through this entire cycle, now you have a pool of leaders that can take the next group through. So I know when you're starting a new program, it feels like, oh my gosh, I've got to train all these group leaders and I've got to do all these things, is set up this structure. Know that once you've done it, just once, you should have some trained leaders that can then duplicate it more easily. They don't have to go through all the same training over and over and over again. And you also have participants who you don't have to train them like, and here's what it is, because they already know what it is. They've already experienced what it is. And so now if they want to lead, they have in their mind the model already. So it becomes easier. Talk about what it's been like for you, Stacey, in your training.
Yes. Well, I love that training piece, and it becomes easier. And one of the things I wanted to say here too is we're talking a lot about engaging new people here, but we've also talked about how small groups can benefit your existing groups. So the ushers and greeters may want to have a spirit group. And I think I shared on one of our episodes about our choir. Our choir broke up into 3 spirit groups for this fall series. And I've had feedback from the host saying, wow, I mean, we liked each other before, we were a pretty great group, but now we're getting to know each other on a deeper level. And if you can imagine all of your teams and groups being involved in this model too, and it makes your communication with them easier, and it grows the team and strengthens your already existing teams too. And then when a new person joins a choir and they can come in there and get into a spirit group, well, now they're bonding that much quicker, and they're really becoming engaged members of the community and not just in that one group.
Yeah. And that's where, when you stick with it, when you hold strong to it, it really does shift the culture. It really creates a connected culture. And I know what I've observed in ministry is, if people can leave and feel like nobody will notice, then there's not much holding them in. It's not a super strong foundation. It is the relationships that we build. It is those connections. I have seen people that have been part of a spirit group or a small group of some sort, and that literally it becomes their family. It becomes, when there are weddings, when there are joyous times, like I had one person in my community who I was invited to officiate her wedding, and when I got to the ceremony, it was her family and her small group. And that's who she invited to her wedding. And I thought, wow, that is the power of small groups, is, that's who we are for each other. So in terms of shifting the culture, just to put out there, be patient. Shifting a culture can take time. I have seen some ministries where the minister is just really, really good at introducing culture shift. And it happens really quickly. I've seen even very large ministries shift very, very quickly because their minister has already created a culture that is conducive to culture shift. I have seen other ministries, and some of them very small. Like it's not how many people are there. It's what is the dominant culture? And if you have a dominant culture that is, why would we change? We've always done it this way, then it can take a lot longer. So be patient with your community, with your congregation, and know that it'll take what it takes, and to be consistent. The key is to be consistent and to, have make the decision that this is what we're doing going forward, so that people can get used to it. And it's you had a little resistance in the beginning. The best practice is, I just wrap those who have been around and doing what they do, wrap them in love and support them, and then put your energy into building the new model. So you're not discounting them. You're not telling them they're wrong. You're not telling them they can't, but you're putting your energy, your announcements, your words into building the new culture. And I think that's we talked about that quite a bit when we talked about culture. So just remember, be patient and know that you are building that spiral, and that first loop around, you got to build some momentum to make it easier and easier and easier. So Stacey spoke about something that I think also ties in really well with culture, and that is something that we do in our small groups, in our small group system. We have an intro event, which we've talked about before. We call it, a week 0 or a preview event. And then we offer content, because that content is part of expanding their understanding and letting them express what they're understanding. And then we do this little thing called a social event. So do you want to talk a little bit about social events and what they are and what they have done in your community?
Yes. So, and it sounds like social event. Aren't these groups social events anyway? Well, in a sense, they are social. You're coming together and having conversation. But really within the groups, it really is, people are sharing, you're having fun in there, of course, but it's all kind of some deep work that happens in these groups, Mindy. Yeah. And so your social event is a way at the end of the series, after you've completed the content, to come together and really kind of celebrate. You may talk about some stories from that you've, seen, or some transformation you've seen in your group, but it really is just about coming together, meeting as people, and doing, go out for dinner. You could have, I had a group send me pictures where they were in someone's backyard. This is during COVID, and they had a piñata, and they were swinging the pin. I had never seen adults do a piñata before, and they were having a grand old time with it. So whatever you think of that's, picnics, just something that allows you to get together and connect almost on a different level, because it's just about relaxation and coming together with these people that you already know pretty well, because you've been sharing some deep stuff for the past several weeks, Yeah,
I love it. I love our social events. And you're right. It's like, it does, sometimes our groups do feel like, well, that's a social event. And I have had people who are like, oh, so I could do a small group that, does basket weaving. And it's like, well, only if there's a curriculum component to it. So when we talked about culture, we talked about the importance of having challenge. So the point of these groups is to be teaching the teachings, right? To be taking the mission to people in living rooms and in ways where people are being challenged to learn new things, to expand their understanding, and to express it. So as much as it is a social event, these are not purely social groups. They aren't just, let's get together and at the dog park and walk the dog. If we're going to get together at the dog park, we're going to watch a video and we're going to learn something together, or we're going to talk about a book or whatever that thing is. There's always a curriculum component. And then the social event then becomes that 1 week out of the series when it's like, okay, there's no curriculum here. There is nothing you need to share. There is no challenge there. We're not going to challenge you to go deep or any of that kind of stuff. We are just going to have fun. And I think one of the most important things that come out of being in a small group is the friendships that are formed. And friendships that I think, there are friendships that are formed just out of being part of a church community. But I have found that the people who make the strongest connections, even if you don't have small groups, they're the people who serve on the board together, or the people that are in the choir together, or the people that are in some kind of small group working together, getting to know each other better. So the small group component allows you to scale that. Like, what do you do when your board is full and people want to get connected? So you're not going to have everybody in the congregation be on the board. So small groups give you a place for everybody to go to make friends. And I love what you said, Stacey, about people can do this really quickly. I mean, we talk about these 5 steps, but someone could go from an explorer to, getting engaged into a group and joining for a series and getting plugged in and having a life-changing experience, and boom, now they want to lead a group, and they're in that encouragement step, but they're already full cycle. So you can cycle someone through in a really intentional way and quite quickly. So I want to share some of the social events just to give you some ideas of what people do. And I love your examples too. So if you have other stories you want to share about these, I've seen groups that have done things like going bowling. And of course, some of these were pre-COVID. But as things change, there are things you can be doing together that are like game night, some of the pre-COVID things. People used to get together to do games. I had one group that went to a baseball game together. I've had a small group that we went to the theater together, which was really fun. Everybody had talked about wanting to see this thing that was coming to town, so we all went and saw it together. Dinner parties, going out to eat, all that kind of thing. So it really is, one group went to one of those art classes where everyone paints the same picture together and took a picture of all their artwork afterwards. So that's really fun. It's really a great opportunity for the group to brainstorm together, to choose to do something together, and that in itself is leadership. So you're training leaders in a way that is really fun. Any other stories or examples come to mind for you, Stacy?
Well, one of the things that you just said did make me think, so this is another opportunity, and we tell our group hosts, okay, so you're the host, find someone to plan this social project. And that right there, somebody that might not be ready to host a group for 6-7 weeks is really good at party planning or really good at event planning and wants to take that and run. And just doing that gives them some confidence and helps them feel ownership in the group. So, the sky's the limit with these socials, and even on Zoom. I've seen some tea parties and some margarita parties.
Yeah, that's right. Like, you had a margarita party in your small group. Yeah, I love that. We had several groups when COVID came around, and they were like, oh, well, what can we do now? We can't meet in person. And, I like to say, yeah, what can you do now? You can't meet in person.
Right.
So, it's not the end. It's just a challenge to get more creative, and people have been creative. Like, I love the tea parties. I've seen virtual dinner parties. We actually had a virtual Thanksgiving. I had a small group that was meeting on Thursday nights. And I said, hey guys, my family's not doing anything Thursday night. I'm not going to be traveling anywhere. I'm still going to be here. So like, I know, if you've got family stuff, go for it. But if you don't, just come and we'll have a Thanksgiving party together. And I had probably 80% of my group. I had almost everybody come. And people said it was one of the most meaningful Thanksgivings they could remember because we had each other, and there was no family drama. It was, we had a great time together, and we shared what we were cooking, and, we shared what we were doing, and it was a really lovely experience. And I love that memory, because I would think about if I hadn't done that, if I thought, oh, it's Thanksgiving, I'll just skip because it's Thanksgiving. Then we would have all been just sitting by ourselves, some of us alone on a day when it was great to just be able to connect. So if you've got that, that COVID block of what we can't do because of COVID, know that there are things that you can do, and that it's important to be doing those things right now, because that connection is so important as things open and close and open and close and open and close. And there's a lot of uncertainty, but that doesn't mean we can't do anything. We might just have to do it a little differently. So those are the social events, and we do them with every series. So, in the fall, in the winter series, spring series, in the summertime, we do lots of socials. We kind of loosen the reins and say, hey, if you just want to do socials, do socials. Christmas time, socials are great. You can put together those Christmas parties, things like that. I've actually I was invited to a friend's church. I'm trying to think the denomination. I think it might have been a Lutheran church. And she was doing small groups at her church. She invited me to be part of their Christmas party. She said, we're having a Christmas party. The whole church is going to be there. And there's free childcare. You're going to feed the kids spaghetti and pizza. So bring your kid. And by the way, do you want steak or salmon for dinner? And
Oh.
I'm like, oh, well, thank you. I will have the salmon, please. And I went, and they had wine and they had salmon, and I mean, this amazing dinner spread. It was their Christmas party, so they also had the Christmas tree out, and they had someone playing jazz Christmas tunes, live musician. And when they had their presentation, guess what they talked about, Stacy?
I'll never guess.
You'll never guess, their fall small groups and all the wonderful things that happened and who wants to share. And they had some of their group leaders talk about what happened and some of the participants. That was their Christmas party. And on the table, they had, these contact cards, so that if you wanted to be engaged in a group when they started in January, you could go ahead and submit that you were interested in either participating or leading. So they used their Christmas party to celebrate what had happened in the fall in their groups and to plant the seeds for what was coming in January.
What a great idea.
Isn't that a great idea? And it was delicious. It was so good. And it's a great example of, it's like, it was friends, it was family, it was whoever. And my friend knew that I was, involved in other ministries. She wasn't trying to recruit me or anything. She just wanted to share it. She's like, I know you'll have small groups. Come see what we do. And it was amazing. So I share that. I know there's some people saying, oh my gosh, how could we ever afford to do something like that? But I throw it out there to let you know it is being done, and it is being done in ministries. It is possible, and it's incredibly effective at helping people feel embraced and welcomed and special.
Yes.
So that's how you scale. That's how you continue to grow and to expand. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So we are at this point in the fall series. We are sneaking up on that social week. We also do a service project in the midst of that. And then we wrap it up with a full congregational celebration of some sort. Maybe it's a Christmas party. Maybe it's a Thanksgiving. We used to do it for Thanksgiving, and we would do our Thanksgiving. We had a big Thanksgiving feast. And then the holidays, we kind of relaxed and said, hey, everybody, let's just keep it simple over the holidays, so we're not all burnt out and stressed over the holidays. So we did our big thing for Thanksgiving, and we would have our celebration of our small groups. But that's kind of where things are. So Stacy, talk about what's happening in your ministry right now in terms of groups. And for people that are doing small groups, what are some things that you should be thinking about in terms of wrapping up the season and getting ready for the next one?
Yes, so we're about midway through our program, and I know we're going to talk about service projects next week, so I won't go too deeply into that. But right now is when you really want to kind of be getting everyone to at least start planning for their service projects and their socials as well, because it happens in a blink of an eye. These 6 weeks of content goes by so quickly, and especially by week 3, people are making those so good and juicy connections that they're just having a grand old time. So yes, keeping an eye on that, and having the host kind of planting that seed. Keep an eye out for leaders. Keep an eye out for someone that might want to lead a group for our next round. So that's a good time to kind of start planting that seed as well.
I love that. And then what do you do? So we have this kind of gap. Let's talk a little bit about that, the holiday gap. What do you do over the holidays, and how do you prepare for that next round of trainings that's going to happen most likely in January?
Yes, so we typically don't do a structured curriculum, but we make it available for our hosts to meet, whether that be if they had used a room on campus or Zoom room from the church. We keep that open, and we suggest maybe prayer meetings every other week or every week. We give them some suggestions for some loosely structured groups, Christmas parties, as you say, some socials. And then, yes, before Christmas, we'll be getting those dates for the new year out to them, and with the training dates and the choices of curriculum and however else we whatever else we want to do for our January series.
I love it. So those are some things that you can be thinking about as you are putting together your structure, your plan, your engagement strategy. Again, just tying all the pieces together, that it all begins with that mission, with that clarity on here's the outcome that we're going for, and then breaking it down into these different steps. The wonderful thing is, as you get people that go through the whole system of, from an explorer to being engaged to expanding and expressing and encouraging, as they've gone through that, you may find that you have people that really specialize in different areas, and that someone's really good, like, oh, yeah, I'm really, really good on Facebook. I'm really good on social media. I want to be on the team that helps engage the explorers. I want to help reach new people. And so you can kind of plug them in to different places. Or maybe you have people that want to lead small groups because they love that expand, express process, and they want to help with that. Or people like Stacy, who love being at the welcome table and having people fill out that contact card and getting them plugged in for whatever is next. Or maybe you have people that are just really good at identifying leaders, and they're really good at inviting people into leadership. So the wonderful thing is, once people have been through the process and you can help them see what that process is, you can plug them in so that they can be part of bringing that mission to life and inviting others to follow in their footsteps.
Yes.
Anything
That's
else you want
beautiful.
to add?
No, that's what it's all about, is inviting all of us. Each person that shows up has something to contribute and a way to shine, and we just invite them on into it. So I love it.
We do. And we invite you to continue the conversation with us. Next week, we're talking about outreach and service and organizational health. So we're also going to be talking the next week about, in a couple weeks, about celebrations. So all these things coming on the leading edge. We can't wait to see you next time right here. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.